welcome to Stuff and Whatever Comes Up. We're on Twitch right now, we're commenting on certain things and people have asked me to explain. Well, let him talk at length about anarchism, anarchism in general, anarcho-communism and so on. And I want to explain why anarcho-capitalism is the only possible anarchism. In other words, the other anarchisms have no meaning whatsoever. Let's see. Anarchism would therefore be individual freedom, absence of the state, and for people to decide for themselves, and for themselves. Well, that life in society is not regulated by a planning body, but that everyone had the freedom to act and so on. Let's see. What proposals have been made to achieve this? Let's talk about the wrong proposals, about the proposals of this, right? It is that true anarchism is of the left, it is collectivist, because perhaps in origin they were the ones who put the word. Yes, but the doctors also at source did bleeding, did. They used these little bugs to get the blood out. They were doing a lot of things that were wrong and that were found to be wrong. They are a doctor of now. It has nothing to do with a doctor of before. So anarcho-capitalism is the way to find anarchism viable, because other anarchisms have no meaning. Why am I saying this? Because there are several ways to impose anarchism. Most anarcho-communist and anarchist attempts without private ownership of anything have been achieved precisely by putting a planning body, an assembly, a something in the middle that determines the lives of others. I mean, state. According to Max Weber, the state would be the organism that has the legitimacy to exercise violence over a territory, which is the monopoly of legal violence. That is, the one who imposes, the one who has an executive power that sets the rules. You imagine that you have, okay, let's suppose an area and you say no, it's that has to be applied worldwide. Okay. I mean, that's it. If it has to be applied all over the world it no longer makes sense. We imagine an area, Barcelona or whatever, that becomes anarchist. Then they set up an assembly to manage the common things and private property is taken away. The community of Paris. Let's talk about the Paris community. And in the Paris community there was a central assembly body, which met in the city hall and made decisions. I mean, are we really going to call anarchism a thing that is planned from a town hall? We're dumb. That is, those guys in the assembly, that the assembly in Russian is Soviet, determined, no, then it is necessary to socialize enterprises, factories, and what about? A reform of I don't know what needs to be done. We must maintain public services with taxes. Just kidding, right? Just kidding, right? I mean, you can't call anarchism a thing that works exactly the same as a state, because it's a state. You can't take a state and call it an assembly and think it's an anarchism. You can't. You just can't. First let's start with political impossibilities. Then we'll talk about economics. So, then there are the anarcho-syndicalists. The same thing, but with the union. I mean, you can't use the union as a state for this. You say, already, but it's just that it is. In other words, anarchism seeks to eliminate the state but not the government. Okay, you've heard this, okay? Okay, you maintain the government but you don't have a state, therefore you don't have executive power. You don't have that centralization of violence, therefore it's not a state. Okay, you have a government. Can you impose the decisions they make from that government on others? If yes, it has executive power, therefore it has the state. In other words, it has an associated police that imposes the decisions of that government. And if not, you decide what you want, nothing is taken. If people don't take you, we have made the decision that we are going to do such. Do it, do it. It is no longer anarchism. It's not anymore. For example, a person could very well have a company. A person could defend his private property. Other people could make such a partnership with each other, have something of their own. So it is no longer anarcho, it is no longer collectivist. They are no longer collectivizing everything because some people will do it and others will not. This is anarcho-capitalism. In anarcho-capitalism you do what you want. If you want to collectivize your property, do it. So, that's it. Therefore, go ahead. So, then we are already on the issue of private property. Of those who want to end private property and how much. Someone says that private property must be eliminated, but all of them. That is, in a confrontation between Bakunin and Marx, is that Marx said that there was personal property and private property. That is, personal property would be my mobile and private property would be a company in which you hire, for example, a bar. A bar. If I own a bar and I hire some people there and they are managing the bar for me, then that would be private property. My cell phone would be personal property. But the anarchists said to themselves that no, that everything is private property. That is, they do not distinguish between personal property and private property in general. So they want to abolish private property, collectivize everything, all resources. How? To begin with, how do you force everyone to collectivize everything? A person can say no, because I don't want to collectivize this. I want this to be mine. That is, you no longer have to impose by force to prevent there from being, to prevent that there is no private property, but people defend their things, people defend their house, people defend their mobile, their clothes. That is, if there is no private property, you can go to anyone who is on the street, take away everything he has on him, and well, you're fighting against his private property, because there is no personal property. Then it's ridiculous. Yes, that's what they did in America. They did it recently in Chad, didn't they? I don't know. I don't remember. They wanted to abolish private property. In the end, no one was doing anything. In other words, who would produce if then anyone can take it? Why are you going to plant potatoes if anyone can come? And why not set it on fire? That is, things are either yours, individual, or of a group of people, of a collective, but collective private property, individual private property, that there is collective private property. That is, a joint stock company is collective private property. A neighbor's staircase that is the collective private property of all neighbors, of several people. A flat that is bought by a couple, that one is getting married, because it is the collective private property of a collective of two people. So, pulling this way, no? I got a little lost. Where is he? What are you applying? Okay, yeah, the property can be public, that is, the state, that the state manages and takes care of this property. Individual or collective, but private, or maybe everyone's. Let there be no private property, let there be no property, let there be no property, let everything be everyone's. Exactly how that can be done. What if I want to set fire to a forest? Nothing is for nothing. If I want to tear down a building, that is, you as the owner of a building, you can tear it down to build something else. There is a management of the territory. There is a management. Things get done. If nothing belongs to anyone, at what point can you say that I am more interested in one thing than another? I'm not going to bring all these trees to make farm fields. I'm going to set it on fire because yes, because I'm an arsonist and I feel like it. If there is no property of any kind, everything can be done. If you say no, there is an assembly, then it is already a state. In other words, there is an assembly that determines what can be done. That's a state. That is indistinguishable from a state. He says no, because there are some who say, we are against vertical states, but not horizontal ones. It's a state. It's a state. You're not an anarchist anymore. Then, economic issue. The anarchists argue that surplus value is taken away. Let it be produced collectively. Let it happen in cooperatives, okay? That is, that all the workers are in turn capitalists, and then there is no surplus value. This also the communists and such. This is absurd. This has a lot of problems. To begin with, to set up a cooperative you need an initial injection, you need capital, you need to put in money, savings. You need an investment. In other words, all the workers of a cooperative have had to invest and have had to buy the means of production. Well, buy them or make them, right? I mean, it's not that there's no money because, okay, do them. You imagine that you want to make a potato planting cooperative, because you need to plant the potatoes, make the tractors, all the things. Then there would be this in communism, it would be a cooperative of those people, and it is of those people specifically, of those. It would be collective private property, that's the bottom line, but hey, they don't want to admit it. An operation is private property. But okay, it's one of these. So, once it has been created, if a person wants to work there, in capitalism he has several options, either he is hired or he disburses all the corresponding initial investment, then he shares the benefits. But if you take away the part of being hired, because that would be taking away the capital gain from that person, the only thing left is to make the initial investment. And if you don't have it, you have to. And why are you going to? If you've made all the effort to set up that cooperative, why are you going to share the benefits now with people who haven't done anything? Let him show up. I mean, because if you can wait for other people to do the cooperative and then point it in your face, why are you going to do it? It just doesn't make sense. Then, people who have not set up that cooperative will be unemployed. They will have a lot of problems getting a job, because they don't have the option of being hired just like that. A person who is hired does not need an initial investment and can be hired freely, and it benefits him. She can be self-employed or hired. You have more options. What you are doing is taking away options that capitalism gives you and only focusing on ones that are not totally efficient. They can be very well. That is, you can set up an assembly perfectly, but only with assemblies you cannot get to hire the entire population, because those people who cannot make an initial investment or who do not have such, well, look, hey, they'd better get hired. There are people who prefer to be hired to be self-employed. There are people who prefer to be hired to set up an entire cooperative company. Logical, because those people would stay behind. Then he added that there would still be inequality because one cooperative would be more efficient than another, or it would be better, it would be worse, there would be differences between one and the other. The idea that once the classes and everything else are eliminated, everything will be the same is absurd. Lenin already tried and saw that there were still differences and inequalities and all that. There are those who try harder and those who try less. It is that if that were so, all the self-employed in Spain, the 4 or 5 million, would charge the same because they have the same access to the means of production. That is, they have a means of production and such, and there are differences between them. Oh, my God. And no one steals the surplus value from the self-employed. Well, the state steals their taxes. But hey! So, none of this makes sense. In other words, anarchism doesn't make sense. And how are all these problems solved? How is the territory managed without a central body such as an assembly, or how is all this? With private property? Private property is what anarchism guarantees its functioning. At the moment when you have delimited the property rights and you have your property, another person has his property and everyone is a small owner of absolutely everything and everything has an assignment of the responsible, because the property assigns responsibility for everything. So at that moment you can save, you can invest, you can grow, you can be hired, you can end unemployment, you can produce, well, everything. And well, if it's your property, then you can say no, don't set it on fire. You can avoid being set on fire because if nothing belongs to anyone, then I set everything on fire. And you say no, it's just that this is exaggerated because people wouldn't want to. The people, there are arsonists. Are there arsonists? And how do you manage an arsonist? No, it's just that. It's just that this is all from the capitalist perspective. People in anarchy would have a different mindset. It's not true. Human psychology is human psychology. The human mind is this. There are arsonists, whatever the system is. The arsonist does not swim in capitalism. The arsonist, well, it makes him a lot of fun to watch everything burn and that's it. So, how do you deal with this? Imagine that anarchism is on top, because you make this utopia that you think can be done, in which there is no crime, there is no evil, there is no egoism, everyone produces for everyone, there is abundance. How do you prevent people from coming from outside? You would have to put terrible borders. That is, a place where there is no crime or anything, no police or anything. It would be filled with thieves, as happened precisely in the United States, in the ESA area. A lot of people who wanted to live from the fairy tale went there. And that's it. It's not that it has to be the whole planet. See if you're going to get. If you can't get until the whole planet is an anarchist all at once that everyone agrees on the whole planet. Leave yourself, which is absurd, really. Stop being an anarchist badly and become an anarchist well, which is anarcho-capitalist, because it is impossible to manage. That cannot be produced. Nothing can be done in Eastern anarchism. Then, internationalism, yes, but it's just that you can't. You can't get everything to be achieved at once. The changes take place in small places and are spreading, but you can't extend this because it's ridiculous. So, it's just that it's not going to follow you, it's not going to work out for you, it's not going to work out for you. And also what incentives there are to protect, to defend, not to burn things, to produce, to innovate, to undertake. You just can't even hire. It is that anarchism is like that. In this way it is unfeasible if you take away private property. With private property absolutely everything is solved, all problems are solved. But it is that without private property it is impossible. You need either private property or a state, an assembly, a site that manages as. Then you are already in socialism. So unworkable. So well, in fact all the historical examples and absolutely all in which communist anarchism and such have been attempted, have all happened just as I say. Everyone, is that without exception, either there was a central organ or it was desolation. Because no one was producing anything because. And well, so far the video. Come to Twitch if you want more information or more videos or comments and such, and well now you have to do it has to be done when you have seen a video to like, share and subscribe. Also come to Twitch as I'm telling you. So I'll see you around.